Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Henry. I'm the city's public information officer, and I'm here to help out with tonight's meeting. Back in November, the city convened a meeting over at the O Club to talk with Alameda residents and especially Alameda Point neighbors about the need for emergency housing. And we shared a proposal to have a program located at Alameda Point. City staff heard questions and concerns about the program and will bring a revised program to the City Council on April 5th for their consideration. We're here tonight to present that revised program to you, answer your questions, and listen to your feedback. Just like last time, we're recording tonight's meeting and we'll share it on the city's YouTube page tomorrow. We've hired MIG to facilitate tonight's meeting and to track all of the questions and comments we receive. But before I turn things over to them so that they can share our meeting agenda with you, I want to introduce you to the city staff that are present with us tonight. First, Lisa Maxwell. She served as the Community Development Department Director since December 2020. And prior to her appointment, she served as an Assistant City Attorney specializing in real estate and contract matters. Ms. Maxwell has over 25 years of experience in real estate and also has been a resident of the city of Alameda for over 25 years. Lois Butler is here tonight, and she manages the City of Alameda's Economic Development and Community Services Division. She oversees social services and homeless programs in Alameda, and she's responsible for growing Alameda's tax and employment bases. Combined, Ms. Butler has nearly 4 decades of experience in economic development, real estate development, construction management, and social services. Veronica Cole is the Community Development Department's Community Services Manager. She holds over 25 years of experience in social services, including over 9 years of leadership experience in programming that improved outcomes for individuals who are homeless or are formerly homeless. We also have with us Joey Harrison, who's the founder of Village of Love. The Village of Love has been a wonderful service provider to the city and operates our day center where unhoused residents can be connected with healthcare and other critical services every day from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then they operate our safe parking program where people who live in their cars can be safe when they park overnight from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I also want to acknowledge City Manager Eric Levitt is here with us tonight, and Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft is also here with us tonight. So on to MIG, we have Dan Amsden, who's the Director of Planning Services at MIG, and he's an award-winning planner, urban designer, and engagement specialist with over 20 years of experience leading inclusive community-based planning projects throughout the United States. We also have Ana Padilla, who's an associate at MIG and has supported community discussions, engagement events, and policy projects on a range of topics. And then last but not least, we have Joan Chaplick, who I'm about to turn tonight's meeting over to. She's the principal at MIG and is the director of the firm's management and policy services team. She's an expert public outreach strategist and facilitator who has been engaging communities in collaborative planning and design for over 2 decades. So thank you to all of you for joining us. And I'd now like to turn things over to Joan Chaplick.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to ask my city colleague, Veronica, to pull up the PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to give you a quick preview of how tonight's meeting is going to work. So you've heard the welcome and introductions. We're going to give you a little bit of information about how you can participate in tonight's meeting since we're on Zoom. Then there's going to be a presentation followed by ample time for questions and comments. We're also going to take public comment, and then we'll have our next steps and closing comments, and we'll wrap up around 7:30. So that's our general approach for tonight's meeting. So let's go to the next slide. So some ground rules. We request that you respect each other's opinions. So we know there's multiple viewpoints and a lot of passion. So we hope that people will be respectful, especially when they're sharing comments in the chat and during public comment. We also ask that you speak from your own perspective. So don't make assumptions about other people's points of view. Please provide input when directed during the meeting. So there'll be specific times where we'll open it for question and comments. And just a reminder, we're on Zoom, technology happens. So if anything does, we request that you're flexible and patient. So our next slide. So we want to get you involved in tonight's meeting. And before we launch our first polling question, just a reminder that we will be using the chat. You'll be able to submit your comments using the chat box, and everyone behind the scenes will be reviewing And we will also be sharing what we hear from you. We'll be answering questions and also narrating the comments we receive and collecting them on a digital whiteboard. And then there'll be public comment at the end. But we also want to get you involved in some polling right from the beginning. So we have our first Zoom polling question. I'm going to ask Anna Padilla to open the poll. And we just want to get a sense of how long you've lived in Alameda. So for those of you who are attending, let us know, are you relatively new, 0 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 11 to 20 years, more than 20 years, or maybe you're here tonight, but you may work in Alameda, but you don't live in Alameda, but you're definitely interested in tonight's information. So let's just take a moment. We have about 30 people tonight. So hopefully everyone will weigh in. We do want to go through these quickly. So let's see. So right now we have folks who have been here more than 20 years, leading as the highest response so far. So how about if we close the polling so that we can move through these quickly? So Anna, if we're able to share the results, it would be great to let people know as we are going. And so we have, so 37% have been here more than 20 years. So but we also have a mix of new residents as well. So it's great that we have some variety in terms of the longevity of your residents in Alameda. So let's go to the next question, the next polling question. And Veronica will need the next slide. So what general neighborhood are you in? So are you based in Alameda Point, the West End, Central Alameda, South Shore, East End, Bay Farm, or I know we had one responded to the first question who didn't live in Alameda. So let's take a moment and find out where everyone is from this evening. Okay, so how about if we close the polling? It looks like the responses have stopped. Anna, let's share the results. And so let's see, in terms of the results, we have 42% from Alameda Point, but we also have several other neighborhoods represented. The West End at 16%, Central Alameda, a handful of folks from the East End, Bay Farm, and then someone who's not from Alameda. Okay, let's go to our third polling question. So we'd like to get a sense of your housing situation. So please let us know, do you own your home, rent your home, live with family and friends and do not pay rent, or do you currently not have a permanent home? So, okay, so we have a good mix of a third homeowners and almost 2/3 as renters. So, and we have one more question for you. So then question number 4, we have, did you attend the public meeting at the Oak Club? So that was on November 29th of last year. And it looks like it's almost a little bit split. So some people, it'll be familiar, but we may reference some of the findings and what we heard from there. Okay, well, we want to thank everyone for completing the poll. And I think with that, we are ready to dive in with our presentation. So Veronica, let's go to the next slide.
Actually, Joan, I'm going to hop in real quick. 2 things. First, I think that some folks weren't able to access the poll. I'm not sure why, but I know, because I know that it looks like we've had around 27, maybe sometimes 20 people participated, but some people were chatting to say that they weren't able to do it. So we can we can update this in the future when we send out future materials. And then I also wanted to note that that Councilmember Tricia Spencer is here, has joined us as well. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So thank you for clarifying that, Sarah. And now we are going to turn it over to Lisa Maxwell, who is going to give the main presentation. So Lisa, you're on mute right now.
Great start. Sorry about that. Thank you, Joan. I appreciate everyone being here tonight and taking the time to hear about this important topic of emergency supportive housing at Alameda Point. Next slide, please. The presentation for me this evening will cover a number of things, a background about how we got here this evening, a little bit about the homelessness strategic plan that the city has put in place to try to end homelessness in our town, some discussion about our population of homelessness in Alameda, a new emergency supporting housing program that we intend to discuss with City Council and that we're here to get your input on. And then some alternatives to that newly revised plan that we'll also ask City Council to consider. And again, look for your input this evening about. Our recommendation for the service provider for this program. And then we'll finish with the questions and a comments period so folks can have another opportunity to talk and to share their ideas. Okay. So we are here tonight because we had a prior meeting in November of 2021. And at that meeting, we asked for some input from the community that attended that meeting, as well as taking comments via email regarding our proposal that we would use 3 homes at Alameda Point to house 32 homeless individuals. At that meeting, a number of key themes emerged, which we have paid close attention to. There were some concerns regarding process, and there were concerns regarding the neighborhood and some programmatic issues. On the process, we heard a lack of transparency, concerns about legality of locating emergency housing in this particular area, some inconsistent community support, handling concerns with the program that arrives during its operations. For instance, would there be 24/7 on-site alert staff? Was there a 24/7 available phone number to reach staff? And when I mean staff, I mean program operator staff. There was also a desire expressed for more community input. The neighborhood and programmatic concerns included things like security, safety, trash, potential for inappropriate behavior, background check requirements, the quality and the suitability of the housing that we were offering, such as specific concerns about lead-based paint and the general condition of the homes. We also heard concerns about too many residents being asked to live in a single home, neighborhood saturation with other social services programs, and concerns about the sorts of visitors that would be permitted. Following this meeting, staff put together a fact sheet to respond to some additional community concerns and shared that. We intend to do that again after this program is officially revised, if it is. Staff also reviewed the program that we previously had and the feedback that we received and looked at it with an eye towards some modifications. Next slide, please. There was also some concern expressed at the meetings regarding legality of the emergency housing within this particular area from a zoning perspective, and some concerns about the historic nature and the preservation of these historic homes. So staff did some additional due diligence, and this planning staff determined that this emergency supportive housing is allowed under our municipal code. The project qualifies under an exemption from CEQA. And we also determined that the project will not need to go to Alameda's Historic Advisory Board for a number of reasons. Mostly because the project will include primarily interior remodeling and repairs. There will not be significant modifications to the exteriors or significant demolition or removal of any of the historic and unique defining features of these homes. And all work will be performed consistent with the Naval Air Station Historic District Guide, preserving the character of the Naval Air Station, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. Again, if lead-based paint is found to be in existence at these homes, that will be remediation of that will be included in the scope of work in connection with readying these homes for occupancy. Next slide. I wanted to point out that as we noticed as we mentioned, the city has recently done a strategic plan to end homelessness in Alameda, and that this particular proposed emergency housing supportive program is supportive of that recent plan. It's supportive in a couple ways. The program provides low barrier, housing focused, temporary housing, and it also expands outreach and supportive services to unsheltered households. Next slide, please. So here's a little conversation about our exact homeless population within our community. The number of homeless individuals living in any particular area is determined by HUD's point in time count. And this count determines how many individuals are in the county and then how many individuals are specifically living within each city. The last count that we have numbers from was done in 2019. And at that time, we learned that we had 231 individuals who were unhoused in Alameda. On February 23rd of this year, volunteers performed a new count, and we will have data from that in the spring or summer of this year. And to point out, currently there are very limited options in Alameda for providing shelter to our unhoused neighbors. Currently, we only have capacity for 23 beds. This capacity has been further limited as a result of the pandemic. For instance, the Midway shelter, which provides support and housing to women and children, has a total capacity for 25 beds, but in light of the pandemic is only at about 60% capacity. And the day center run by the Village of Love could house 12 folks at night, but with COVID considerations in place, they're only able to house 8 people at night. Next slide, please. So as I noted in this last proposal that staff made to City Council, we recommend that 32 individuals be housed within three homes at Alameda Point. City Council was supportive of this proposal, but we were asked to go seek some community input, which we did in November. We found that many neighbors were opposed to having homeless housing within their neighborhood, and some objected to the particular density that we were proposing as well. Based on this input, staff is now coming forward with a revised plan in hopes of addressing some of those community concerns that we heard about. So our new proposal is to use 1 home for 5 to 6 individuals who are homeless, and 2 vacant homes for families who are homeless. 1 family will occupy each of the homes. Previously, the proposal included 8 to 11 beds per home for homeless individuals. So this is a significant reduction, but we think it's more in line with what we heard the community was interested in seeing. Veronica, I think, is now going to put a map up that shows the location of some currently vacant Alameda homes. There's 6 homes currently vacant at Alameda Point. We only intend to use 3 of those, but our selection of those will be based on programmatic decisions. So once we know which sorts of individuals we'll be serving, we'll choose homes that are appropriately suited to that population. All right, next slide. So as I mentioned, city staff is also going to provide some alternatives to City Council in case they would like to revise and go with a different recommendation than we have proposed. One such alternative could be that we could use all 3 homes for homeless individuals and provide a total of 14 to 19 beds. Alternatively, we could use all 3 homes for families and serve 3 families. Next slide, please. Staff is also recommending a service provider to run this particular program. We are recommending that the Village of Love operate this particular program. And as you heard, the Village of Love is a social service organization in which the city is well acquainted and has a very strong relationship with. Village of Love has also performed very well and very successfully in Alameda, which has given us confidence in their programming skills. Village of Love first began providing services to the city in 2020. They currently operate the day center and then the day center overnight services at the same location for 8 individuals, the safe parking, and then the safe shelter program, which is 4 trailers at Alameda Point that provide an opportunity to house medically vulnerable individuals during the pandemic. They are also currently the operator of a warming shelter at a church, and they are the subcontractor with the church, with the faith-based organization. So Alameda has, as I mentioned, developed a very strong relationship with the Village of Love, and we have found them to be a great neighbor. And we haven't had many complaints at all about their services. To the extent we have, they're very responsive and very receptive to feedback. We have Joey Harrison here, the Executive Director of the Village of Love, and Joey is happy to answer questions about the program as those may come up later, and we'll give him that opportunity. We also see a real benefit in working and partnering with the Village of Love. We can merge our programs together and take advantage of some of our programmatic linkages. And we can create a pipeline for individuals who may want to graduate from seeking shelter and housing through Joey's program into a more stable opportunity at this emergency supportive housing. So we can foster a program that allows for housing readiness to be achieved. Another key benefit for us is that the Village of Love will have already gotten familiar with those individuals and know them and have relationships with them. And that will also help, I think, feed into the success of this program here at the emergency housing location. Next slide. That is it. We're going to move on to questions and comments, and we look forward to receiving your input. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, for that presentation. We'd love to get your questions or comments in the chat. So I have a team of city staff here ready and waiting, and you'll notice there's, and one of the chat names is set up as comments and questions, so send them there. And so Sarah Henry is going to, here's how this will work. We're going to spend our time a little bit. Sarah Henry is going to read questions that come in and identify which of her colleagues can answer that question. And then any comments that come in, we have a team that's capturing them on a digital whiteboard. And when we move from questions to comments, and you know, we're happy to hear as many concerns as you have, we'll share that whiteboard so that you can see all of the comments coming in. And then following that, we will have public comment where anyone who wants to speak can have 2 minutes. But we first want to make sure we get your questions answered, then we'll take comments, and then public comment. So Sarah, I see some things coming in.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple questions now. I will not see the questions that come into your questions and comments host. So if folks can just send the questions to me or to the co-host.
So Anna will email them over to you. So we'll make sure that everybody here sees them. I'll read the first question while we're getting that set up.
I have a whole lot that came in directly to me.
Oh, good.
So I can do that, and folks are welcome to continue doing that too. I did just want to first acknowledge that our Shrub Social Service Human Relations Board member, Diane Yamashiro Omi, is also here with us tonight. So thank you for joining us, Diane. And the first question that I had was, what program is in process to give the Main Street occupants hotel vouchers, city-funded EBT cards, and city-funded transit passes? So I don't know if Lois or Lisa, or Veronica wanted to take that one.
So currently, we don't have a program to give hotel vouchers. We are looking at giving vouchers for transportation in the near future. We're working on that. And we hope to have a program to have vouchers in the future. I know that St. Vincent de Paul has worked with us over the years when we have extreme cases and we really need to house people. We call on them and we ask them if we can provide a person with a night or two in a hotel locally. And occasionally the city also houses people, but it's not an ongoing program. it's a program that is used every once in a while when the need is very great.
Great, thank you. Another question, I think for you, Lois. This person wanted to know about the answers to the questions that were up on the whiteboard from the first presentation. Were those answers put into that summary document?
The fact sheet,
Or the fact sheet?
yes, the fact sheet captured those answers. And we did at one point email those out, the fact sheet out to the people that were in the meeting if we could read their email address. There were some emails that we couldn't read. We will again do that for this meeting. We will update the fact sheet and we will put that online. More than likely after we go to City Council so that we can encompass all of the answers.
Great. Next question came in. It says, why were these homes taken off the market in the first place?
I can tackle that one, Sarah.
Great.
They were vacated through the natural course of tenants moving on. So we immediately began talking about this program after we had 3 vacant. The ones that currently we just happened to have 6. They weren't intentionally taken off, but we hope to quickly come to a decision so we can get those remarketed, because we know in general there's a housing need in the city of Alameda, and we want to make sure that we provide that opportunity for other folks that have those available to them.
And then following up on that, Lisa, why is the city not readying those vacant homes to then be used currently?
We are going to begin readying those vacant homes. I've been communicating with our asset manager, and she, is concerned about that as well. And so she has been starting to line up folks to get those ready to go, because we do understand the need.
Perfect. Okay, the next question, what experience does this is for Joey, what experience does the Village of Love have in operating residential homeless shelters?
Have to unmute. Okay, so we do currently operate the overnight shelter at the day center. We also operate the warming shelter, and I have years of experience managing 12 transitional housing for unsheltered. So some years, but I'll say probably in that roundabout, I managed those about 5-6 years.
Great, thank you. And then someone asked if this is a different organization handling the housing than the first meeting. Lisa, did you want to take that one?
Happy to. Yes, this is a new organization. We have decided to go with an organization that's currently in our community.
Great. Next question, I'm going to read a little bit of a comment too, and we've already talked about this a bit with regards to the homes getting taken off the market. This person says the vacant homes are the ones where the tenants have moved out and the homes have never been placed on the market for rent. In fact, they've learned that the property manager has specifically been asked not to place the homes on the market for rent. Is the intent for the homes at Alameda Point going forward as tenants move out? Is the city intending to leave the homes vacant for future homeless shelters? And if that isn't the intent, why are the vacant homes not being placed? I know we've kind of talked through this one, but if we can give a little more.
I can add a little more, a finer point on that. That is, the intent is not to include additional homes for homeless emergency supportive housing. We intend at this point to use 3 homes, and we're planning to promptly make that decision and then ready those homes for the program and the other homes for leasing on the open market.
Great, thank you. We're just gathering everything here. Somebody asked if they heard you correctly that if lead paint contamination is found, they ask if the city staff is aware of the high amounts of lead contamination found in the testing reports that have been done on the big whites.
We are aware, based on the reports that we have had done, and we've already begun a remediation program. We have completed at least 1 home, and I know that we're working to get access to a few others. And so based on the report that we had, we are going to roll through the homes. Money's been set aside and do the remediation recommended in their reports.
Great. Is this initiative going to help address the large homeless encampment by the Main Street Ferry? And if not, are there plans to handle that?
So, excuse me, yes. We believe that we will be able to provide some shelter for the folks that are living over by the Main Street Ferry. For those that are housing ready, that are currently in shelters, some of those folks will be moving to these homes. And some of the folks who are not quite housing ready, we would like to house them in our congregate shelter and then cycle through. We also received an announcement today from the state of California that we have received a home key grant for 12.25 million. And that with that money, we will build 47 transitional units. And we will also have people eventually cycle through and occupy those units. Our goal is to have people who are living on the streets now have a place that they can go, so that we don't have encampments such as those that are at the Main Street area, in the Main Street area.
Thank you. Somebody asked which 3 homes are being considered, if it's the original 3. Do we want to pop up that map, or do you want to talk through that, Lois or Lisa?
We can put the map up. It is the original 3 plus 3 others. Veronica, is that feasible to pop that map up? Thanks so much. You can see the dots.
So the goal is to select 3 of the homes based on the size of the families that are selected.
Or individual, or how many individuals?
Or individuals,
Right.
correct.
Great, thank you. Veronica, you can probably stop share. Perfect, thank you. 2 questions here on lead paint. The first person said that, or it might be the same person, but they've said they haven't seen any information on the lead paint remediation. They'd like copies or for us to publish the plans for the lead paint by home. And then the next question or remark was that research shows that the housing first model only works when the full range of services are both available and used. What services will be? Oh, these are not the same. Sorry about that. Let's start with the first one with regards to the lead paint remediation. Do we have information about the plans for the lead paint by home?
I don't have a sequence of homes as we intend to move through them. That's probably something I think that's something I could get a hold of, but I know there is a plan to work through the homes periodically, and there is an existing report by which we'll do that work.
So then the second one that I rambled off, I apologize. Research shows that the housing first model only works when the full range of services are both available and used. What services will be available, and will there be a requirement for residents to avail themselves of those services?
Joey, is it possible you could help us with that one?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we will have services. So we'll be in partnership with it'll be in collaboration with our day center. So we already have clients lined up in the day center that have been actually participating in services, mental health. They have counselors, case managers. They're working with a few of them actually are employed and have jobs. So they're definitely housing ready. And I wanted to, we have a group that have been in the shelter, I say about a month and a half, 2 months, and they have done a lot of work on themselves. So as they move in the house, we're putting them, they're on housing lists. And so they'll continue with the wraparound service support that they have currently, and we'll help prepare them in the transitional housing, prepare them for long-term housing, and help them be able to sustain it. So they're not just going from the streets into a shelter. So there's steps to it, and the ones that are in there now have been doing really, really good. So.
And housing navigation services will also be provided.
Yes, we'll have
And Joey's services will be a wonderful tie-in with our new Dignity Village project, which Lois mentioned we received a grant for. And the wonderful thing about Dignity Village is it's 47 units, and it allows us, since some units will be occupied by couples, to potentially house 60 or 61 individuals. That's going to give us a lot of opportunity to get folks off the streets.
Joey, since we have you here, this person, they said, as with all projects, the devil's in the details, and there are no more details being provided than what was provided at the November meeting. How will residents be chosen? When can we see the actual contract that'll be written between the city and Village of Love that will provide specific guidelines? Actually, so maybe that's for you, Lois and Lisa.
I can answer
So-
the first part on how
Yeah.
the clients will be chosen, and then I'll punt it off to you, Lo.
Okay.
So again, we have clients who have been actually working on bettering themselves as far as getting on medication. There are ones that are currently in our shelter. And so they're really adjusted very well. So those are the ones that have been chosen, the ones that are actually participating in the program and are ready to move forward in housing. So,
And as for the contract, what we plan to do is go to City Council and get direction from them. And as Lisa indicated, we have our recommendation and the alternative. So when we before we go into contract with Village of Love, it's standard procedure in the city that we have a contract ready. That contract gets attached to the council item, and then the council votes on a contract that they can see,
Thank you.
and
Lois.
it's available to the public.
The next person said that many of their neighbors didn't get the email to notify them of the meeting tonight. They asked what list we used, and I can answer that one. We used the list that Lois talked about. We had a check-in sheet at the first meeting. So we used that list, we only had the email addresses of the people that provided them. But in addition, we posted the notice up on the city's website. We posted it on Nextdoor, on Facebook, on Twitter. So we definitely tried to get the word out in many different ways. Oh, and I will say that for folks that are not here tonight, they can continue to provide feedback and also ask questions by emailing Cox, ACOX, at alamedaca.gov, which is the same person who's been collecting all of the emails that we've received so far. Next question. While there are encampments, what can you do to improve the conditions? The area where they are now is totally inappropriate, this person remarks.
We have been working with both Public Works and the Alameda Police Department to cleanups, and by that I don't mean removing the people, but to go in and have an opportunity to get rid of all the trash. And we have begun setting that up on a regular basis such that we could just stay ahead of that challenge. Lois, I don't remember off the top of my head of what the regularity of that is. Do you?
Currently, we're doing it monthly.
Okay.
Let's see. This person, similar questions about the current encampments. This one person is asking if there's anybody out there talking with the Main Street campers. Those are the people that are incapable of getting support, and they're asking, what are we going to do for them? Do you want to talk about the outreach services that we have, Lois? Or?
Yes. So we have a street outreach team that goes out and speaks with and provides support to the folks that live out on Main Street and around the city. They visit them daily. They bring lunch to them and sometimes dinner. They bring them to get their driver's license or ID so that they can get support and services. And when they see that they're not doing well, they call the care team, the new care team, to help out with them. And they also provide them with other individualized special services, including housing navigation for some of those who are ready to move into housing. So, and also I know that Joey's team goes out there and tries to create relationships with them. So they are seeing different people, multiple people, and the same people on a daily basis.
Great, thank you. A couple of people, and I apologize if you already answered this, Lois, but a couple of people have asked questions about the Main Street encampment and why we can't move it to a different place where it wouldn't be such a nuisance. That the cleanups that are happening are not enough, and it just seems like we can just move it.
I'm going to let Lisa answer that
Yeah,
question.
I'm happy to take that one. So our ability to move the encampment is restricted by law. And that is one of the reasons that we're making such big efforts at a number of locations to providing housing for our homeless residents. Because until we have an opportunity to offer someone on the street a bed who's on public property, we legally cannot have them move. So our goal is to provide our homeless residents with a much more dignified opportunity to have a roof over their head and have a bed and to improve themselves with services that we're going to offer. But we are limited in how we can handle that until we create these housing opportunities.
Thank you. Somebody had asked, and I know this is a speculation a bit, Lisa, but maybe this is the person who lives there. They asked, how long are you going to let the home with a 1-year-old be hazardous?
That is an opportunity where we will get in and do the lead abatement. We have the report prepared, like I mentioned. We know what the scope of work needs to be. We just need folks to allow us access as we go through the process, and we're going to work through those.
Great. Joey, I think this one's for you. What program model will be used for this program? And what are the requirements for the clients who are receiving the benefits? Are the clients required to attend services? I think this is
Yes,
similar to Go
yes.
ahead.
So the clients will be, they're already participating in services. So the clients that that have been selected are actually going through, are participating in the day center program, and they participated in the overnight shelter. So, and they're working, like I said earlier, they're working with case managers. They have working with other providers. So they're have a wraparound service. And so we just want to move them from there and now give them opportunity to learn how to live and have their own room and different things like that, and where all those services will continue. The mental health, with case management, housing navigation, all those different things. And then they'll get other training such as how to cook your food and being able to clean up, and little things that we tend to not realize, that because we've been indoors and been in a house. So these things that we can't teach in a shelter setting, we'll be able to teach them inside of housing. So all the current wraparound service they have, plus a few more.
Great. Next question, Lisa or Lois, when will you release the restrictions on the limitations due to COVID, since that seems to be basically over now, which it's not, but and you can make good strides on existing locations?
So,
Go ahead, Liz.
the county will let us know when we can release the restrictions due to COVID. We don't make that decision when it comes to shelters.
Thank you. And next question. Is this no longer envisioned to be housing in which the residents only reside for 6 months? At the November meeting, it was presented as emergency housing, and the resident roster would change about every 6 months.
The same proposal is going forward. It's not changing.
Okay. So similar to that, with regards to the proposal, in the home that will potentially house 5 to 6 residents who are not a family, will residents be allowed to bring their animals? What provisions will be taken to ensure that the addition of as many as 10 animals in that house are not disruptive? They say that there are already periodic issues with animals that come over from the Main Street camp, and people from elsewhere from Alameda bringing their dogs to have them run off leash over at Alameda Point.
Go ahead, Joey.
Okay. So our current residents actually, one has a small dog, but very loving dog, very small, and is very tame. And so just like we will vet with our residents, it'll be the same with their fur families. So, you know, we want to make sure that the houses run smooth, and I'm huge on neighbors and neighbors helping neighbors and working with clients on how to be good neighbors. So just like we work with our clients, we work with the animals to make sure that they are that we we'll have a cap on it. We won't have 10, 15 dogs in there at one time. Actually, I haven't even seen that many come try to stay at the shelter at one time.
Thank you. Lois and Lisa, somebody asked, what can we ask Alameda residents to do who want to support the city's efforts?
Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate this, the opportunity to have your support. I think for starters, please come to City Council and make public comments when we take this item in April. There may be opportunities Joey could speak to if he needs any kind of donations that could support his program, but I'll let him be specific about that. If there's anything else that Lois wants to add to.
I would say that the support is welcomed, and thank you, and echo what Lisa has said. Thank you.
Somebody has asked for the results of the lead testing. Lisa, I know we talked about that before. Are we going to be able to post that on the website?
I believe we can. I will check in with our property management folks, but I don't see a reason why we couldn't. I don't know, Eric, if you feel differently about that, I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, but he can't talk.
Oh, could you give us a sign, Eric? Okay, I will work on that.
Okay. Okay. Why is the city collecting rent from substandard homes that have lead paint hazards?
I'm happy to take that one. I think we all may have a difference of opinion on what substandard means, and we'll have to kind of agree to disagree on that. As I mentioned, though, to the extent that there are lead paint in homes, we're going to be resolving that. The work has commenced. And otherwise, you know, if you have concerns about your home, please please let our property management group know.
Similar to that, Lisa, somebody's asking if the city's going to do anything about the kind of general, they refer to it as dilapidation of the neighborhood, the plans for kind of future changes in the neighborhood.
Well, I think, like I said, we're going to do some of the work on the homes. I'm not exactly sure what you mean.
Okay. And I'll just say I got a message from City Manager Eric Levitt saying that he's fine with the information going online as long as it doesn't violate the privacy rights of the tenants. So we'll look into that.
Okay.
Okay. Why doesn't the city have hotel vouchers already? They were told in last November that we have them. Lois, did you want to speak to that?
And like I said, we've never had vouchers to my knowledge. What we have done is we've worked with St. Vincent de Paul, and they have had a flexible fund that was funded by the city at one point, and they've used those to put people in hotel rooms. Some people call that vouchers, so I think that that's what they're talking about. We had planned to have additional vouchers through a grant program that we're getting, but the grant program no longer supports the vouchers. And so we are looking at alternatives for our flexible fund. And that's where we stand.
Thank you. In the homes that are housing the non-family residents, will there be 24/7 staff?
No.
The non-family residents.
Oh, the non-family, I'm
Individuals.
sorry, yes,
Yes.
for the individuals.
Yeah.
I thought you
Yes.
meant the family, sorry.
No, I was like, I knew you heard
Misunderstood.
that. Yeah.
Yes, there will be 24-hour staff.
Okay, thank you. This person says the neighborhood is pet friendly when it comes to renting outside of the homeless group. In previous available to rent posts by prime property, they prohibited pets. But if it's okay for the folks that are moving here, the unsheltered, to have pets, when it comes time for the other homes to go on the market, is Prime going to change that policy?
I wasn't aware of that policy, but it's something, I understand the concern about the lack of consistency, and it's something I'd be happy to look into. This is new information to me.
This person says, please explain how someone makes the move from living in one of the encampments to a shelter, such as one operated by Village of Love, and then ultimately to some sort of housing, be it one of these homes or to other transitional housing.
I can take that. So we do a lot of outreach, and we also have a lot of our guests that come by and utilize the daytime service. And so a lot of times they'll come and they'll ask if we have space, and if we do, then the ones that we think are definitely housing ready to transition into more of a transitional housing are the ones that are participating in the program, that are not being problematic in the neighborhood, and within the area. So, and they really are trying to get on their feet. And so they need that next level, which is that house, that room and board, so they can have some sense of privacy, and they're not, and they, like, I've got a few that's been in there for over a month and a half. And so if you live in with 7, 8 people in one room, after a while, it can be a bit much, but they stick with it, and they stick with their program. So I'm very, very proud of them. So, those are the people that will navigate into the housing. And then from there, we'll navigate them. They'll be moving into their own housing. So give them a better chance at sustaining long-term housing.
Thank you. And while I have you, Joey,
Yes.
how many?
Lisa, you had your hand up?
Thank you so much, Joey. I was just going to add on and mention that, sort of our goal here through these links of these programs is to really get folks into temporary and then permanent housing. So our focus has been more on the navigation into something permanent, as opposed to hotels or something less certain for people. So that's where we've really put our energy and our dollars.
Thank you, Lisa. Joey, how many homeless families does the Village of Love currently help?
I'll say about, okay, I was making sure I wasn't on mute. I believe about 2 to 3 now currently.
Okay. This is for Lisa or Lois, I believe. How are you preventing the growth of homeless and keeping the numbers down in the first place? Main Street campers have new campers, motorhomes, and such that were not there before. Where are they coming from?
So in surveying, when we have surveyed the homeless in Alameda, the majority of the homeless are either from Alameda or have connections to Alameda. They have family here. They have lived here, or some of them have lived here all their lives. I know that I have personally met a number of folks that are homeless, and I can tell you more than, I would say 75% of the people that I've met are from Alameda. Our numbers of people who are homeless who are actually from here long-term are lower than that, but the people that I've met are from here for the most part. We do get people who come in from other cities, but a lot of those folks are transient. They don't stay here for a long time. They come and they go, whereas the homeless that are here constantly are more than likely residents that have lived in housing. I've met a lot of folks who are still working, you know, have even nice cars that they live in. I know that when we were doing the point in time count, people were saying, oh, don't count Mercedes and cars like that, because they're not homeless. And we know for a fact that people have cars like that and they're living in them. You know, I know that people think that the folks are coming from other cities, but the majority of the people are from the city.
Thank you, Lois. All right, we have a handful more questions. How is a home that doesn't require ID going to keep out sex offenders?
Joey, you want to add on to that?
How is that? Well, doing extensive background check and checking to make sure that we are vetting and getting people that are safe for the neighborhood. So and stay safe for the other residents too.
And we will check the Megan's List
Yes.
website initially for each potential resident. To the extent someone doesn't have an ID, that would be one of the services Joey's group could offer, would be to work with that individual to solve that problem. Then once they had the ID, we could check the Megan's List site again. So there's opportunities to be safe around that issue.
Yeah, we will definitely do a lot of work with them prior to them entering into the neighborhood, into the house. We don't just take them from just meeting them and moving them right into the house. We actually do a lot of work with them before we get to that step to make sure that everyone is, we putting people, the right people in the house for the neighborhood. Hello?
He froze there for a second.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, next comment and question. There's some significant maintenance issues with both the Big Whites and the ranch homes. Is the intent to completely address those maintenance issues, such as cracked foundations, windows that don't properly protect from the weather, some windows that don't close, prior to housing homeless people and families? If not, why not? And if so, when will those issues be addressed?
So I'm happy to take that one. We are moving forward with this program separately. We receive concerns about the houses and try to address those. If you have a particular concern that's not addressed, that's, you know, in particular safety issue, we need to know about that. But they really are on separate tracks. Our property management versus our interest in providing homeless housing are completely different considerations for the city.
Thank you. The next person asks a bunch more questions actually about the Main Street. What about providing porta potties? That was done when they were in the depths of the pandemic with a street light. The population there doesn't even have a porta potty to their knowledge.
I'd have to check into that because I was not maintaining the porta potties in that area.
It's something we could consider and look into. We need to coordinate with some of our other departments.
Yeah, I will say just from an EOC perspective, we haven't stopped any of the porta potties. So whatever was in place for the pandemic would still be there, but we can look. Somebody has talked about that. You keep saying that there will be significant changes to the homes, but there's no list to verify it. Do you have any list that you could provide?
I think we actually are saying there's not going to be significant changes. It's going to be, that's why I mentioned we don't need to go to the Historic Advisory Board, because we're going to do what I would consider pretty cosmetic improvements, paint, potentially carpet if it's damaged, just to make them be habitable. But I'm not talking about them being fancy.
Yeah. And this person says, if a family occupying one of those homes obtains housing and moves out, and there's not another family to move into that housing, will the program then convert that previously family house into an additional house for a non-related group of people?
To another, I'm sorry, was a question.
Would they, would they take a family house, and if there's no family that wants to move in, would they convert it to individual housing?
Oh, we actually haven't considered that. Our goal was we have a number of organizations that we could potentially seek referrals from regarding families. And I think that our list is probably thorough enough that that's probably not going to be a problem, but I can't assure you that it won't be.
I'm going through here, you guys. I've had more than 50 questions that I've asked, and I think we're getting close to the end. Yeah, I think we're close to the end of the questions. If we want to, oh, here's one. Okay, this will be the last question, then we'll go back to Joan and we'll move to the comment portion. This person says they've notified the city about their lead problems in their home, but they haven't gotten any clarity on the remediation in 5 months. They're unsure that this is going to be done properly because of that. So who do they speak to?
The property management group will be the ones that you need to speak to about that. And if they're not hearing from them in some timely way, then any of us city staff.
Okay, great. All right, well, with that, two things first before I hand it over back to you, Joan. I had tried to sort the questions as they were coming in, and I had a bit of a handful of comments that were being received through the presentation. So I just want to read those. And then I have another comment that we received by email that they wanted it to be read out loud. So I'm going to do those two things and then toss it back over to you, Joan. First, comments. The Historic Advisory Board still needs to make a finding where the use is consistent with the EDC. Somebody had commented during the presentation, Lisa. They also commented that the status of the neighborhood as a historic district means that the project is not eligible for a categorical exemption. Another comment, other barriers are the saturation of fair share of affordable housing in the neighborhood. The Navy EDC also prohibits anything but residential use, excluding emergency shelter. And that emergency shelters are not allowed in the historic residential zone. And then they're also not allowed by SB 83. And that is the comments that came in during the presentation. And then one comment that we received by email, I'm just going to read it now. I actually believe this person might be here, but I was told to read this one. What is the city doing to assist the homeless population immediately outside of the Alameda Point neighborhood? So we've definitely talked about that across from the dog park. What is the plan for increasing vacated homes, both the ranch and the Big Whites? So we talked about that. Where is the lead paint resolution? We talked about that. While it appears that there may be some movement towards a more reasonable solution, these are the issues that many of those of us living here are quite concerned with. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Joan.
Okay, well, thank you, Sarah and team, for answering all of those questions. Now we still want to take some comments, and I want to share my screen, and we have a whiteboard that we have been taking notes on. I want to show you, we have a lot of the questions we have been keeping track of. There were a few comments that were read, and we want to give people an opportunity to drop in some additional comments. Any issues or concerns that you have, this is your opportunity. If you drop them in the chat, send them to comments and questions. And what will happen is I'll read them off. We'll get them on the whiteboard. We'll do that for a couple of minutes, seeing how many flow in, and then we will use the remaining time for public comment. So let's see what issues or concerns people want to share. We know we got a lot of questions answered, so that may have put some of those concerns to rest. So let's see if there's going to be any comments coming in through the chat. And I have my two colleagues, Dan and Anna, that are going to be capturing them and putting them onto the whiteboard. So we'll just take a moment. We'll give you a chance to type
Joan,
some of your comments.
Do we want to start and just do kind of a couple minutes of public comment and then go back and forth while people are adding their feedback, or?
How about if we just take a moment, and if nothing's going to come in through the chat, then we'll just go straight to public comment and use the remaining time. How does that sound? So we have one coming in, and it's just a comment about things being CEQA exempt because it's a historic district. Let's see, we have a comment And again, Anna and Dan are going to be capturing these and getting them in there. We have a question about does the city have a density map of homeless housing in the town? It appears that the point is the dumping ground for the whole city. What is the percentage in each area? And if any of the city staff are able to respond to any comments, please let me know. We have another comment. I support this proposal and would like to know what the timeline is. We have a comment about SB 83. It prohibits the use of funds with a conditional use permit. And then another comment, the Navy EDC prohibits anything but residential use. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in a little so that you can keep track of what's coming in. Okay, we've had a few more come in. The neighborhood fair share is exceeded for homeless housing. This project will not help the Main Street campers. Let's see. Oh, we have a comment here. The Village of Love operates out of a building adjacent to our center. They have been great neighbors. I have seen many of the folks who are just there for the night or a few days helping to clean up the grounds. Let's see, helping to clean up the grounds, start planting a garden, and in general, taking pride in their space. We have a comment. I'd like to see a project that can help the homeless immediately. Then we have a comment that is a request. Please post the building permits for the restoration and lead paint remediation. Okay, we'll just give a little more time for some others. Let's see. Does the city have long-term plans greater than 10 years to keep the big whites as residential homes, or is it the intent to turn them down? It's hard to grasp what the city's plan is. Money would be better spent with hotel vouchers, EBT, and transit passes immediately. The city needs to clean up garbage weekly and give the Main Street more bathrooms. And this is a very active commenter. I would like to see less costly alternatives in a different neighborhood. Then we have a comment. This proposal looks so much better than the last one. I'm really impressed with the Village of Love. I am still concerned with how the city is concentrating services on the point, is still embedding segregation policies at the local government level. Okay, let's see. Housing First is an inefficient model without detailed requirements for those receiving housing. Okay, any other comments? We'll just give it another minute or so, and then let's see. Is there a possibility of getting lighting on Lemoore Road? We have no street lights and it's dangerous. Who do I reach out to? Okay. Supportive housing for transitional housing families that is consistent with zoning would be welcome. And the city needs to improve the housing above substandard for current residents. Okay, we'll just give it another minute or so. I'm getting multiple comments from some of the same people. November's meeting said that they could not do background checks, but today is different from Village of Love. What has changed? And then a question, why are we reviewing two of the same proposals the community rejected last time? Okay. Any other comments for the whiteboard here? So I think, we have a variety of concerns here. And again, everything entered onto the chat that is coming through the whiteboard is going to be part of a summary of comments, and that will be included with the staff materials that are shared with City Council. Then we have another comment: emergency housing is not appropriate in this neighborhood. Okay, so let's see, I'm not seeing any new commenters. So how about if we wrap up the whiteboard and we use our remaining time for public comment? So just we'll do a quick review here of the different concerns that people have about the services, questions about building permits, requests for lighting, just some overall comments about the variety and concentration of services in this neighborhood, some supportive comments, some positive feedbacks about Village of Love. So definitely a variety of opinions in this group tonight. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing the whiteboard and we are going to move to public comment. So to make public comment, please raise your hand. I will recognize you and I'll take you in the order that your hands come up on Zoom. And then Sarah has a timer. We will take you off of mute. You'll be able to speak. What we'd like you to do is first introduce yourself. And once you say your name, then Sarah's going to show the clock, because the clock will come up on the screen. But we at least want to have people be able to see who is commenting. So Sarah, if you're ready, we will take our first commenter and the first hand in the queue.
Wanted to clarify one thing. Somebody had asked earlier about the historical district and the zoning, and City Manager Eric Levitt had responded that the planning director had responded to those questions and concerns back in December as the zoning administrator, and that this was defined as residential use, so that's not an issue. So I just wanted to note that, and yeah, we'll get started.
Okay, so let's see. We have a hand from Alan Tubbs. So he's our first speaker, and he'll be followed by Craig Miat. So Alan, please introduce yourself, and then the timer will start. You have up to 2 minutes.
Great, thank you very much. Alan Tubbs, and the house you see behind me is what the Big White looks like, in case no one had actually seen one. Very historical, built in 1942. On the upside, I want to thank from the November meeting, Alameda PD has done a really good job in calming down Alameda Point. We hear less of the street racing. I see a little more police presence out here. So kudos. I think the police officer that was in the meeting that day heard a fair amount, and so something happened. I am concerned because, as someone mentioned, you were bringing up some of the same proposals, and I don't want to state that you kind of glossed over the November meeting, but that was pretty rankus, and I think a lot of people are very upset, and still are, that you're bringing up some of the same proposals. I also think back then at the time, the thought of putting a family in each of the homes, I thought was somewhat of a reasonable approach, but we still seriously disagree with putting 5 or 6 individual people, not part of a family, in what is a home that is designed as a family home. This is a family neighborhood. These are people, I have lived here, we have lived here and raised our kids here for 18 years. We have seen everything and everybody come together, and it's a slap in the face for the city, just because you own these, because the Navy gave them to you for free, to come in and say, well, we're going to plot some things here, here, and there, and to deny that the west end of Alameda and Alameda Point is not being dumped on. It's just, it's not true. You are. So on the upside, I'd say, if you put 3 separate families in the 3 separate homes, I think that's something that we can all discuss and might have a little more legs on it. But if you continue to revisit what we roundly defeated and crushed in November, then you just aren't listening. And this isn't a listening session. It's a statement that the city wants to do. But anyway, thanks for doing this tonight. Do hope you do get the garbage picked up on. I have to put the garbage out every week. I'd like to see garbage picked up out on Main Street every week. Thanks very much. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Alan. Craig Miot, you are next, and then you'll be followed by Shelby Sheehan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, city for staff for, I'll unmute my video here for putting this together. Been very informative. Again, I want to reiterate what Alan has said. We've all kind of expressed our concerns about the housing of individuals in the homes, and I'm going to support Alan Tubbs' statement. We certainly want to see more families. I would be in favor of having families in the homes, but not maybe for the lead paint remediation problem. You stated several times, which is now getting to give you some background. I have a 10-month-old baby, and I'm getting very, very concerned about the city's lack of response. I've notified the property manager since October. It's been 5 months since I have not gotten any response or remediation on lead paint in my home. I have a 5-month-old baby who puts everything in her mouth. We have HEPA filters. My wife cleans constantly. I've not got a response or clear indication of how the remediation is going. So consequently, this makes me very concerned to say we're going to put at-risk families with less resources than I have. I've got multiple HEPA filters. I've got vacuums, and my wife doesn't work, and she actually cleans constantly to keep the lead dust from infringing into the baby. These families will not have that same ability that we do. I also would like to find out who in City Hall that I need to speak with to get this problem resolved after 5 months. Is it the Eric? Do I need to go talk to Eric about this? Or I need to talk to some of the staff? I've talked to all the property managers. I've sent them letters. I've sent them emails. We have documented reports of the lead contamination in my house. The contamination is real and serious. The lead has in the bathtub alone is off the charts. There's lead dust in the cupboards. There's lead in the tiles. The lead peeling off the walls and windows. There's lead dust through the house. The outside is abominable. I wouldn't put my dog in. This is getting to be absurd to say that you're going to remediate the houses. And I have been here for 5 months trying to get this matter resolved. I've talked to people. I've been in commercial real estate for 30 years.
Thank you, Mr. Miat. That's time.
Joan, you're muted.
Okay, well, it works better without the mute button. Our next speaker is Shelby Sheehan.
Hi, I can't find where I put my camera, so I think you're looking at part of my desk right now. But anyway, I am the one that keeps bringing up the zoning issues. You cannot have a categorical exemption for CEQA in a historic district. And even if you do, you also have to write something that says why you believe that it's exempt. It is also subject to conditional use. It's not used by right because it is an emergency shelter, and emergency shelters are not allowed in this zone. And they're not allowed in residential zones, and they're not allowed in historic zones. In addition, SB 83 says that you may not use these funds in any place where the project has to have a conditional use permit. So these are just several of the barriers other than the saturation and the lack of support. And also, it's not going to help the immediate problem. The immediate problem is the Main Street encampment. Those people need immediate help. Nothing in this project is going to be done for months, and nothing in this project is going to help that amount of people. So this is a misuse of funds. It is not desired by the neighborhood, and it's not going to help immediately. And I'm extremely distressed by the fact that last November, they were saying they wanted to rush it because there was this immediate need, and they've just abandoned the people out of the Main Street. I've seen it myself. It's filthy. The services they're supposed to be getting, they're not getting. They report that they're being visited about once a week. They have these filthy bathrooms that are never cleaned up. They have to tread all the way over to the Village of Love, which is a nice trek away. And they're not even visited by the food bank. And you can't get food from the food bank because you only have 2 arms to carry it from. So this is a terrible project and it should not be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Shelby, thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? If you would, please raise your hand. I'll give folks just another minute. Okay. Well, it looks like we may be finishing just a few moments early, but we do have a final slide with some next steps. So I'm going to ask, we're going to close the public comment period. Now I want to appreciate everyone's participation tonight through the chat, the comments we received, your issues and concerns, and also the comments that were just expressed. And now Veronica is going to pull up our final slide, and Lisa's going to give us our final information from the presentation. So Veronica.
Great, thank you, Veronica. So again, thanks everyone for your participation and your comments this evening. We will continue the opportunity for you to comment by emailing Annie Cox at acox@alamedaca.gov. Once we've compiled all the comments, we will, excuse me, we will update our fact sheet and be happy to share that with everyone. And if you want to add your email address, you don't think we have it, make sure you do that through Annie as well. Thanks so much.
Okay, so just a reminder that April 5th City Council meeting is the next opportunity for you to share your opinions in a public setting. So I want to thank our speakers tonight. Lisa, thank you for the excellent presentation. Sarah, thank you for fielding all of those questions, and the Alameda team, along with Lois, Veronica, and Lisa, to answer them all. And we also really appreciate Joey Harrison joining us tonight from Village of Love, so that he could provide, direct answers to people who are curious about your organization. So with that, we are ready to adjourn for the evening. So we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.